Hi everyone, I'm the Broken Meeple. Win or lose, I'm going to be honest with you. And today we've got a very new expansion here. This is literally only just been released, I think, yesterday, as I record this, and it's now basically you can order it off the Bad Comments website directly. I'll even give you a link in the description if that helps. But this is new retail release. You can now get it, the expansion for Wondrous Creatures Winterfall. Now, Wondrous Creatures is no surprise that I really like this game. This is one of my favourites. In fact, I dare say it even almost hit my top 10 of all time last year when I did it. So it's a very popular game with me. And it's also a very popular game with people I show it to. Like 95% of people I show it to love the game, either grab a copy or want me to bring it back again. And so they've certainly been interested to know what my thoughts are on this expansion. And even though I love the game, it's not a flawless game. No game ever is. So there are definitely aspects I'm like, okay, well, we could improve on this, or we could have a little bit more bite here, that type of thing. So I'm hoping that this does the trick. So you've got a big box like before, and yeah, you're probably going to still need it. It was quite hard to keep everything in the same box to begin with. When you add the extra content from here, bear in mind that there are actually new boards and replacement boards, depending if you use the expansion or not. You are going to need two boxes to store everything, really. So I think the dream of keeping it as a one-box game is kind of gone. In fact, to be honest, it was touch and go getting it in the two, but it depends how you package your stuff. But let's say it's not a huge deal. They've got this cool sort of book style, border thing. So if you've got them on your shelf like this, they're going to look pretty sweet. If you're like me and they're stored horizontal on here, it's going to look less great. But what do I care about aesthetics on that front? I'm just glad that I can actually store everything.
I'm going to allow this.
What do you get in the box? Well, firstly, you have got some new storage trays for various components. So I've been playing this solo a bit recently, and you've essentially got storage trays for a lot of the stuff now. So you can actually store all the cards of the game, sleeved, and I do mean sleeved because all of my stuff is sleeved, in this tray. You don't have to use it when you've got the game out, but you can certainly store it in the box like this. But then you can have, while you're out to play, a nice trays to hold all the various different components. So, it's got the upgraded components. So I've got all the eggs, nets, and energy in one tray here. And then this one holds various, tiles, the species selection pieces, aura tokens, blizzards, snowflakes, basically the new stuff from the expansion. So this stores in the box nicely, and there are lids for these, so they're not just shown like that. So, and, it's quite a nice thing because it does quicken the setup a little bit. Because previously I had to keep all the eggs in a bag and then put the new eggs that I wanted in, the grab bag for the game. And it just took a while. And then cards had to go into multiple bags because you couldn't physically put all the cards in one bag. There was just far too many of them. So that does speed things up quite nicely.
Barely an inconvenience.
Now, the only parts of this expansion which could be considered more of the same are that you get 6 new captains that you can mess around with. So 6 more players with their magnetic meeples as always. I've been using Freya in this particular setup, and I thought this kind of saber-toothed tiger type thing I thought quite suited the winter thing, so I've been using that sculpt. But also you get a revised set of achievements. So the achievements have been slightly tweaked. In terms of the species ones, they're now flexible, so they come blank as the game starts, and now you have these tokens that you basically just randomly associate to them and creates all sorts of different combinations of what these achievements can be. It's similar to before, yes, but the idea is that you effectively now can incorporate the new species, which is basically 50 cards dedicated to a spirit species, which I think, I'm not sure if all of them are species spirit, but a decent chunk of them are, and they basically relate to the new mechanics, but otherwise they function just like a type of creature card. But you now also have a wider variety of those like brown achievements. There was only, I think, 5 before. It tells you to actively take out 2 or 3 of them. And basically, I think it's 2 of them that you get rid of now, which one of them was one that's just been slightly tweaked in this version, a number of species icons. But the other one, which I'm glad they've taken out, is the one where you had to get 2 of every card type. That was always quite a tricky one to do because they didn't always turn up in the display, so the fact that we no longer use that now is actually pretty good. But these new ones do all sorts of things now. How many instant cards do you have? Having different species icons, so having a very diverse tableau, having 2 of the same species for 6 different species, that kind of thing. And there's just a few more, a lot more variety in terms of the achievements you can have in each game, and each combination is going to improve the dynamic and such, so it's good to have those thrown in. But you now also have some new projects to do at the end of the game. So this board sits at the bottom, and basically these are permanent in every game. The 2 species icons that you don't use for the other achievements go down on here, and these represent a end of game scoring for who's got the most of this icon. So now every single species icon is useful in the game for some reason or another. 6 of them are going to be useful for achievements, 2 of them are going to be useful for projects. So no species in any game goes around thinking, oh, I'm not worth that much anymore. It's like, no, they're all useful now. And the snowflakes, which I'll get onto in a minute, is another project that can also come into play. You've got a couple of revised time tracks that have things that happen with the various expansion elements, and it is a lot of extra stuff. I'm also very pleased that not only did they give you the upgraded component versions for snowflakes, so there's no cardboard versions of these, there's no deluxeified version of this expansion, but they even gave you cardboard and upgraded components for the species eggs. Because in the previous set you had to get the upgrade mini expansion to get those really cool wooden eggs like I've got here. But obviously, if you didn't get that expansion, then if they were upgraded, you'd have a problem, a mismatch. Well, no, they give you the cardboard versions and the upgraded versions of those eggs. So basically, whatever you've done in terms of deluxifying your game, this will be compatible with it. It won't be a problem. A nice little thought. A lot of people would just kind of ignore that or let that thing slip past quality control. I'm glad they actually bothered to think about this.
Good job.
So what are the new mechanics generally? So first off, we have these Winterfall cards. So these cards basically, a lot of this expansion is trying to make the map more dynamic, and there was a bit of a flaw in the original game. The map never really changed apart from just adding new tiles on the board, and it was a little bit on the samey side. Well, now you've got a little bit of a difference here. So you have a bunch of prelude cards that you start the game with, and these basically populate some of the display cards. You can't see them yet, but the ones in the wilderness now have snowflake tokens set above them, and when you take the card, you also take the snowflake token, which contributes to that points project I mentioned before. But it also populates the board with things like wild habitats, so wild resources basically. There's about 6 of these, and you just choose one of them before the game starts. Then you have a deck of these, like weather cards, I suppose you could call them, and only 2 of them come out during the game. I kind of wish maybe there was a few. Maybe like a couple more did, so rather than 2, maybe 3 or 4, but alright, it's not a massive deal. But basically, Tectonic Shift, Terrifying Hail, Freezing Point, Dawn Aurora, and these basically have about 6 different effects across them all. 5 or 6 different effects, but in different combinations. And what these do is that they put more snowflakes on the display, they put they put mountains all over the map, making it harder to go places. They put these new aurora tiles on the board, which are basically like really powerful places that you can go next to, but they have limited uses. And they can put blizzard tokens on the board, which blizzard tokens go on top of habitats, and basically it means that when you take a blizzard, when you go somewhere where there's a blizzard, you can't take a resource. You have to take a card from the wilderness instead to get rid of said blizzard token, so it limits what the map can do. But with all these things in place, basically as the timer track moves on, 2 more of these will come out and they'll affect the board state. So there are ways for, and even some of the new species can affect the board state by popping blizzards on the board and stuff like that. So there are like really cool aspects to making the map feel a bit more dynamic and making the world feel a bit more lived in. So you're actually reacting to what happens with the changes, because these new habitats pop on the board and you're like, that's pretty sweet. And these aurora tiles that I mentioned, it's 1 per player every time, when that happens. So 4 new really cool tiles appear on the board on top of whatever the weather cards are doing already. It's just, again, a nice little addition, and it's not complicated. Honestly, people have asked whether you can get this to the game with first-time players. I don't think there's a lot of complexity here to add to a first game. If you're already getting, the main thing of Wondrous creatures you have to get used to is all the stuff on the cards and the iconography and stuff. If you can handle that, you can handle what the snowflake stuff does in this game, because the snowflakes are just basically for a project at the end. The weather card effects, you don't need to explain them until they actually happen. And even the aurora tiles, there's one point in the game where you have to put a bunch of them out. Well, tell people how they work when it comes out. You don't have to explain it at the start of the game. So there's very little extra information that you have to front load people with these new additions. And again, that's a really cool thing for an expansion to do, not up the complexity value. Now, does it add more bite to the game? Yes, because You do have more tactical opportunities for where you can put your people on the worker placement board. You obviously have another species to work with a couple of new mechanics, and the achievements are going to require a little bit of extra planning with what you've got to do, especially with the variety that they have, and you've got to consider those end of year project ones as well, the end of game ones, sorry. So there's a little bit of extra bite, but again, I just don't think it reaches a complexity level where I would say, nah, there is no way I can throw this in for new time players. And if you do throw it in with new time players, you're going to have the very irritating thing of having to go through the giant deck of cards, of which this is not even a fraction of how many there are, and basically going, right, remove that, remove that, remove that, remove that, remove that, remove that. And if you, yeah, I mean, I don't like doing that, so I don't imagine most other people would either.
Tell them I hate them.
The solo mode has had a slight tweak as well. You've now got a new set of tingent cards. So the solo mode plays out pretty much the same. It's just because of the new mechanics, they have to work what the solo AI does against it. The mechanics of the AI haven't really changed. It's still a little bit cheaty for my liking. I mean, I don't mind playing this one solo, but it's not my favourite one to play solo. And, you know, the AI is still pretty cheaty. But what really does confuse me is, well, two things. Firstly, the difficulty of the AI is definitely heightened in this expansion. Because, yes, you've got more cool stuff that you can work with on the board, but to counteract that, this Tingent AI scores points for accessing aurora tiles and blizzards and stuff. And it's not so bad on the lazy and easygoing difficulty, but if you do what I did the other day and play on Wild, which is only level 3, it jumps up in difficulty quite substantially. This last game, I won by a point. Literally a point. And that was about, what, 169 or something like that? I mean, it is quite tough to beat this game with the Wild Tingent difficulty now. There was already a level 4, and for reasons unknown to science, there is a Nightmare Tingent difficulty in here. Which I do love the picture on there, because you got the Tingent in the past, which basically was just getting more clothes, looking more like a king, a royalty or something like that. This one basically looks like somebody abstracted, like out of the Digital Circus or something. It's like, yeah, this one actually does look like a Nightmare Fuel one. But this is Nightmare difficulty. Who asked for that? Who's saying that the original solo mode was too easy? It was not too easy. If you played on level 3 or level 4, it was pretty damn hard. And the AI is already pretty cheaty, so I didn't like playing it on the higher difficulties. I can't imagine anybody in their right mind wants to play this game on Nightmare difficulty. This just seems like an unnecessary addition. But I guess maybe there was a few people that they wanted to appease. I don't know, but it's not an aspect I'm going to use.
Look, let me go back in there and face the peril.
No, it's too perilous.
So has Winterfall managed my expectations? Yeah, pretty much. I mean, this is not an essential expansion by any means. You could happily just keep the base game and have a ton of enjoyment. If you decide, yeah, I only play it every now and again, you could happily skip this one, and it's not going to, like, you're not going to get FOMO issues out of it. But it is a solid one, because the little things that it adds, and they are little, but there's a lot of little things. I mean, what's the opposite of death by 1,000 cuts? You know, think of the opposite of that and put it as a positive thing. Because, you know, the Winterfall cards, you know, with the weather effects and stuff, they're not game-changing by any means, but they do add a nice little dynamic element to the map to make it more interesting and alive, and create these little mini races where people are racing to try and use those aurora tiles before they run out, or grab certain cards of the display to get their snowflake tokens when they appear. But, you know, the extra species doesn't completely revamp the game arc, but it's nice to have another species in the game. It's more variety. The achievements, they're cool. They're new, you know, more variety. It just makes the game more variable, and I think the new achievements are better than what was in the old one. The blizzards and snowflakes and stuff like that, again, they're little additions, but they just add a nice little element each. So it's a lot of little positive elements that add up to a pretty solid expansion. The solo mode is just basically tweaked to work with the expansions. Other than that, there's nothing really new there. I'm definitely all in favour of these storage trays. Yes, I got to store things in 2 boxes. Whoop-de-doo, it still takes up less space than my Wingspan box, for example. But the fact that we now have storage trays to put the cards in these tokens, especially with the new ones in this game, does make the storage and the setup a lot quicker, because you can just take these trays out and then you've just got to populate the board with stuff, and it sort of shortens things there. It does what an expansion needs to do. It takes an already great game and makes it better without adding too much on the complexity. I mean, there wasn't a huge amount in Wondrous Creatures to fix, which is the other thing I like expansions to do, fix problems with the old game. But the problems with Wondrous Creatures was a fairly static map, a couple of pretty bad achievements, and that was mainly it for the most part in terms of its negatives, and they have been improved on. Whether you want to say they've been fixed is another thing. I think the map dynamics definitely being fixed, but yeah, generally this expansion improves a great game and makes it greater. So, you know, it's really solid in that respect. I'm giving this one a 9 out of 10. Yeah, it's a solid one. It's not essential. It's not, you know, the greatest expansion ever, and it's going to require you to have 2 boxes, and it's not cheap. I mean, this one is, you know, costing about the same as a full game in itself because of the trays and the upgraded components and stuff. So it's a bit of an investment. But I think what it adds is really solid, and if you really love Wondrous Creatures, you're going to want to grab this in order to add a bit more to it. You know, if you're a very casual player of Wondrous Creatures, you can skip it. It's not going to be a FOMO issue, like, oh, if I don't have the expansion, this game sucks now. No, it just makes it better, but it was already great before. So, you know, if you like it, go for it.
Demand suddenly skyrocketed. You all saw it.
That's it for me on this episode of The Broken Meeple. If you like what you see, then please thumb it up on YouTube and thumb it up on Board Game Geek when it goes live on their respective page. Check out the Patreon if you want to help keep this channel funded, because I thank them for providing me with a review copy of this expansion, but not every game I get is, so all your donations help me to grab the games that I need to put out more video content. And by all means, check out my other reviews. In fact, why don't you just check out the original review I did for Wondrous Creatures, so you can find out about the base game as well. I'll put a link somewhere up on the top of the screen, wherever the hell it appears. So for me and a little Globeon friend here, remember, it's only a game, and I'll see you on the next Broken Meeple video. Take care.